So good morning, y'all. It's Chad Henderson with Extreme Ag, and we're been running this honeybee header for a couple of days. We've been cutting some wheat with it, and we really like the way it floats. You know, which you say floating, you know, and it's on an airbag system, but it's when it's cutting wheat, you know, we're locked up. But the convenience that I've seen so far is the fact that we can air this thing up and air it down, you know, and stiffen it up instead of locking it up. So we're here with Jeff from Honeybee, and he's gonna give us a walk around this morning. We're gonna look at some features on it, look at some things that's a little different from most headers, and give y'all a good heads up on this Honeybee here. Morning, guys. Like Chad said, Jeff Markham with Honeybee here. I'll give you kind of just a quick walk around and show you some features and options we put on the headers here, kind of where all the drives are at. So under your right hand door here, you've got your knife drive right here. It's back to your knife drive, and then this belt over here is driving your right hand draper. It's all mechanical drive here. Walk over here. Like Chad mentioned, we use airbags for the cutter bar. So to lock it up to go to wheat, you just hit a switch up in the cab. You pump that air up, it locks the cutter bar up. If you want to cut down on the ground cutting soybeans, you drop the air from the cab, and then you can also adjust how heavy it is on the ground. We've got 9 inches of flex up on our cutter bar there. This is our cam reel here. To adjust the finger pitch on your reel, you can simply pull this pin and just rotate the cam. We played with that a little bit the last day or two, and really think we got it fine-tuned pretty nice. Every other bat here, we do 2.5 inch spacing versus 5 inch spacing on our fingers. That'll help with shorter crops, help it feed in. Also, to replace these fingers, you can simply pull out this spacer and turn this finger 90 degrees and it'll come out. So moving down here, we've got our knife drive. We use a dual knife drive right here in the center, and then a divider. So this divides the crop, and these two knives come together really close, but they do not overlap. On the back of here, there's grease fittings. Those are every 10 hours, 1 to 2 pumps. And then we'll walk on down here. We do have a dropout pan right here. You can loosen. So it's an over-center latch right there. That's probably used a little bit more when you're cutting on the ground. You hit an ant hill or gopher hill and scoop some dirt in there, or it'll also collect rocks if you get into some rocky conditions.
Jeff, I noticed that we have, I don't know how many that the deer heads, but we noticed we seem to have one more reel on here. Is that correct, or is it not correct?
Yes, that's a 6-bat. Yep. It's a larger diameter too, we were noticing on your other
than the machines we're running now. It has a larger diameter reel on it.
So same thing on the cam adjustment here. You can do that on each side. And then we were running these divider sensors right here. These will allow you to cut 2 to 15 inches on height. So if you get into a little bit down wheat, you can just dial it down from the cab, or you can have 2 presets. So we found that pretty handy as we were cutting. As far as the header height sensing, we use this bar across the back of the header. If one of the struts come up, it'll move that indicator, which turns the sensor. So as you reach the top or the bottom of that 9 inches of travel we have on our cutter bar, it's going to tell your combine to kick it up or let it down to keep you floating across and keep you a tight cut. So over here is your drive for your center drum, which is equipped with a slip clutch right there. Your drive for the center deck, got a chain drive down there. And then also back in here, it's hard to see, but that drives your left-hand draper.
Talk to me just a second, Jeff, on annual grease fittings, daily grease fittings, what kind of service that this thing acquires?
Really, the daily grease fittings are on your knife heads, 1 to 2 pumps a day, and then on each end of the reel. Those are the only 10-hour grease fittings on the machine. I believe the shafts are around 50 hours, and then there's 3 wet oil boxes you'd want to keep an eye on, but those are annual to change. As far as the single point, so we're set up for the deer here. You've got your standard single point that you guys are familiar with, and then you've got a connection for the display in the cab, and a connection for a harness that goes to the battery, which runs your compressor on the head. That's one of the biggest advantages I think we see, is you can adjust this from the cab versus the headers that you guys are running here today. So as those ground conditions are changing, you can make it lighter or heavier on the ground on the go.
Just a matter of pumping a air switch.
Right. So that's a little run around on the header here. We appreciate you running it here, Chad, and I think we've had a good day or two and look forward to maybe bringing it back for some soybeans. So yeah, Jeff, we've enjoyed it. Like I said, I've got to run it myself for a day or so, and Jackson, my son, got to run it some, and we've really enjoyed running a header. Something different that we hadn't seen. Yesterday morning we was able to drop this header down before we started cutting wheat, and we was able to shave some terraces and kind of run it like you would run on beans. And it's definitely different looking. You know, when you see this thing undropped and the cutter bar out there falls down, I mean, it falls down a considerable bit. When it does, I mean, you think, man, there ain't no way this thing's gonna get beans in there. And I haven't run it in beans, but we run it in this wheat straw, and you know how light it is, and it funneled right in and really seems to hug a terrace real well because of that drop that it's got there. And I was able to play with some of the airbags as well to see, you know, we can set it on this hard ground, this wheat stubble, his slide's pretty good, but we're really hoping to get this thing back in bean cutting time, run over some terraces with it, run in some ground that's kind of wet conditions, run in some rocky ground, let's see if this thing will keep the rocks out of the throat. You know, there's several things from a header that we all ask for and try to come up with to make these machines more efficient, and I think Honeybee's done their part in taking us to that next step.